So I guess Philip Pullman is pretty opinionated, huh?
Did you find that out?
Yeah, a little bit. He seems to, he knows what he's about, and he's not afraid to share it.
Yeah, go figure that a guy who speaks his mind and isn't afraid to basically flip the bird at people ends up writing a children's trilogy that is basically like religion.
I know, right?
we were. I knew I could make this work. We were just talking about Colin Kaepernick off the air. Maybe we could have done it on the air. It's not really like our remit here, but
no.
We're talking about how like he had this workout that they were going to do with the NFL, and like these two parties were going to kind of come to the table. Because on one side you've got the NFL wants talent, and they also want to make it seem like they care about black people. And then you've got Colin Kaepernick, a guy with a lot of principles, but also a guy who could be making a lot of money playing football very well.
Yes.
And the thing fell apart, and they didn't end up being able to do this workout.
Right.
But he held it on his own, which is sort of like all right, are you showing the world that you're in shape? I guess that makes sense. It seems like a little bit of maybe one knuckle of a middle finger. And to the workout, he wore a shirt that said Kunta Kinte on it. So it's like, well, that's just two birds then right there.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. Calling it now. Philip Pullman is the Colin Kaepernick of kids' fantasy authors.
Ooh. Those are some steep words, but
I'd like to see him in the combine.
Yeah, well, the shoe might fit. I'm not saying
the Nike shoe.
Yeah, the Nike shoe
that endorses
him. I wasn't gonna say, it's not like Cinderella's glass slipper here, but
that's probably more fantasy.
Yeah. But what's that?
Hasn't there? There's probably been some Amanda Bynes movie about like it's a sneaker instead of a glass slipper, and she's like really good at basketball or something.
That sounds like something that should already exist.
Some Julia Stiles movie.
Right. But I don't know if it actually does. I'm going to say that it departs from the Hans Christian Andersen version, so there wouldn't be any cutting of the feet to fit into the Nike. I'm going to go ahead and say that.
Nike wouldn't want to sign off on that.
No. Or is that? No, wait, that's the Brothers Grimm. Sorry, not Hans Christian Andersen. But,
the skates, that's fine.
Right.
We've done that one.
Right, exactly.
Shoe companies sponsoring fairy tale films. What killed it? Shrek? Shrek killed fairy tales for everybody for a while, right? Well, I mean, it created a bunch of also-rans like Romeo and Juliet or whatever. But,
right, exactly.
Yeah, that's what you need. You need Cinderella's got mad hops, right?
Oh.
And what's it called? Dunk Upon a Time.
I think we got it. It's just in one. So yeah. Who's the prince then? Is he like a?
Oh no, he's a baller, right? But then one day Cinderella shows up to the court to wash it or something like that, and then he's he's getting out of the showers. Everybody's gone. The lights are low, and he comes out of the locker room and he hears.
Oh, because she's
that?
playing,
and she's like, she's just jamming it, right? Jamarella.
Ooh, there you go. Got a couple of good names or possibilities out there for you.
Well, we're giving away the good stuff here. We got to save this for the paying customers. We're the Just Enough Trope podcast. I'm your host, Caliban, joined as always by my co-host.
Hi, I'm Mikan Hana.
Who's it? Jumperella.
Jumperella?
No, Jamarella's probably.
I like Jamarella. Jumperella, though, could be really go into a song really easily, like Jumperella around. Jumperella around.
It's so far past. I'll just ignore that. And let it launch this. This will be my jumping off point. It's so far past doable, although Eddie Murphy's back now, so maybe I should be careful.
Uh-oh.
But should I tell the audience about my idea for the Christmas Carol?
Sure.
A hip-hop Christmas Carol?
Yeah. Do it.
Don't call it that. You call it Christmas something. We'll figure it out.
Taking it back to the streets?
Well,
I don't know.
This is the thing. I want a story credit, but we'll hand it off to like African-American writers and a director after this.
Sounds like a plan.
I just want a story credit.
Sure.
Barry Gordy's A Christmas Carol. I'll be the Barry Gordy in this case. We'll get Barry Gordy.
There you go.
Yeah. Eddie Murphy is a record executive, right?
Mm.
He's the Scrooge character. This is like a Scrooged. Bill Murray is a TV executive.
Right.
This is a record executive. And so he works too hard. His kids want him home for Christmas. He's not going to be home for Christmas. That whole thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he gets the visitation of the ghosts and everything. like I said, I had this idea like 15 years ago. So some of these stars are not famous or can't do this anymore.
Sure.
And the reason I'm willing to give this away to somebody else who will run with it is I don't and will never know who's popular anymore. So
sure.
I can tell you who the past one is because that's old, but future, I got nothing.
Yeah.
So here's the pitch, right? So he knows all these people. He meets all these people in the course of his day. He's yelling at them. He's their executive. Then at night, they play the ghosts.
I like it.
Who come and visit him, right? So James Brown comes and visits him and tells him he's got to get a new bag.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, right?
Right.
He's the Jacob Marley character.
Sure.
Then I couldn't figure out this. We can play with this one a little bit, but like it was going to be Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston has left us, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But like a Whitney Houston type, a singer, a classic, vocalist is the Ghost of Christmas Past, shows him his past, growing up in the hood, having family, not having a lot, but being together and having dreams of music and rapping and doing himself, playing instruments and just, aspiring to music. And then you get present, right? Present is Lil Jon, right? He's got the cup. He's got the cup. Right?
Okay.
Merry Christmas. Right? He's very merry.
Yes.
And then future could be a lot of people. I was like Odd Future, maybe.
Oh, sure.
Like Tyler the Creator could be, just make it really weird.
Sure.
But more funny than scary.
Yeah.
And then the whole time Eddie Murphy's like, no, I gotta get back to my family and no, please.
Right.
And then, we have a big hip hop celebration at the end and that's your movie.
I think it sounds like a lot of fun.
It makes itself.
Yeah, I think so.
It's already been done.
Yeah.
But a million times. The Bill Murray one and also the million Christmas carols before. But I don't think there's ever been outside of maybe like a Hallmark or BET, like made for TV movie, a Black Christmas Carol.
I don't think there has been either.
So
make it happen.
That's my idea.
Yeah.
Too early.
Too early?
Haven't even digested the turkey yet.
I guess not.
So we're a little ahead of schedule on that one, but you have my permission to take it and run with it. Today on the show, we are talking about his Dank Materials.
Yes.
Let's just get right into it.
Yeah, let's.
Which is premiered a couple weeks ago on HBO, but we took the time to watch the first 2 episodes of the show, which is going to be an all-over adaptation of the His Dank Materials trilogy of books by Philip Pullman, which we'll be talking about as well, specifically the first book, Northern Lights Around the World and the Golden Compass here in the U.S.
Yeah.
But take note, if you are going to read the books or watch the show, maybe do both at the same time, the show is taking from all 3 of those books.
Yes.
It is establishing a story that spans the trilogy. So spoilers, or at least elements from later books will show up in these first couple episodes, and we'll talk about that when we get to that.
Yeah.
And connected to that, as we do on our trope show, I thought that we would examine the tropes and the really origin, or at least purpose, of quasi-religious children's fantasy series. There seems to be a lot of them.
Yeah.
Doesn't there?
Yeah.
And some of them have agendas. I have a theory that they all do. That's my thesis. And maybe we'll dig into that as we get into this.
Yeah.
Did C.S. Lewis ruin it for everybody?
I don't know. I mean, how can you not have an agenda, though, when it's a kid's book and religion is involved?
Well, here's your agenda.
There has to be a theme.
Go
that you're
the
going
F to
for.
sleep.
Yeah,
You want them to go to sleep.
Yeah.
That's actually a book for adults.
Yeah.
I mean, does all children's literature have to be didactic? And if that is true, is children's fantasy the concentrated stuff?
Well, because you're taking elements that are fantastical, but you're trying to overlay it. Like, how does this correspond to real life?
Right, but does it for some reason have to be? Where's the escapism? Like Star Wars is, or used to be, ostensibly for kids, and it's like good guys are good, bad guys are bad. It's it's tough to succeed, but you have to work to make it happen. Your uncle will get killed by a guy in a black mask.
Right.
No, I don't know. And that's fine. And that's okay to escape, and that's fine. But like every fantasy thing, there's just a lesson baked in. You have to learn something.
Right.
Why didn't you clean your room? Now that's why there's monsters.
Right.
Or what have you.
I think when you set out to write something for kids, you have to have a lesson in there somewhere. Otherwise...
A thesis asks a question.
Yeah.
A hypothesis. You're just solving. You're going, shut up. You do. You have to.
Okay.
Do you believe that? You can believe that now. But by the end of this episode, you're going to know why you believe that.
Okay.
If you do.
All right.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I seem driven. You seem out of sorts.
No, I'm not out of sorts. What?
Good. That was pretty good.
Oh,
if you're like, am I out of sorts? I guess I'm out of sorts.
Jeez.
That would have been a little better, but that was
all right.
A hard 6.
Okay.
I want to talk about a movie that I watched recently.
Sure.
If you have something that you watched, we do this sometimes, share what we're consuming. We'll do that before we get into the news for today. I watched a film, a Swedish film from 2018 called Aniara.
Okay.
It is a sci-fi film. It is based on a poem also called Aniara.
Okay.
A Swedish poem from 1956 by poet Harry Martinson.
Okay.
And it is a story about the near future of Earth. It is about a spaceship that is nothing special about it. It is like a passenger ship that carries people, in this case, from Earth to Mars. And as the film opens, we are following several different characters, and this is like a passenger flight, or like a cruise ship, like I said. We get the idea that Earth has been devastated by ecological disaster and who knows what else. And many of these people are sick. Many of them are refugees. But there's also people that are like, I'm just catching the 310 to Mars, basically. Just a panoply of different people and races and stuff like that. And one of the characters that we follow is not given a name, but she is known as a Mimarobe. What that means is that she is, I don't know the Swedish translations or whatever, but one of the things that she does is there is, this movie's low budget, although it does a lot with the budget. And it's basically shot like in a series of malls and like convention centers. So the ship inside is very conventional looking, and there are different things you can do. There are duty-free shops, there's salons. It's like a cruise ship.
Sure. To
kill time on this 3-week journey to Mars. And one of the things you can do is they have this device called a Mima, which is not well defined. It's a sort of a AI type thing. You get the idea that it's partially self-aware, and it's in this room. It's on the ceiling, and it's like this swirling colors. And when you go in and you lay down, your mind is transported to this sort of virtual reality. And what people use it for, and not many people use it because there's a lot of things to do on the ship, but some people like to come in and like lay down and just imagine the Earth as it was, the green Earth, which doesn't exist anymore.
Sure.
Well, inciting incident is, as this ship is on its way to Mars, it has to veer off course to avoid an asteroid.
Okay.
And in doing so, it sustains damage and is unable to, its engines go out. Now, this is a hard sci-fi film, and because its engines have gone out, it is not accelerating, but it's basically traveling at the speed that it was going to get to Mars, but it can't slow down, stop, or turn around.
Okay. That's not good. And
so the ship is basically heading in a different direction. The crew says, okay, there's a problem. We'll have to get Earth or somebody to come out and give us some fuel or fix us or whatever. So it's probably going to be like a year or two. It's going to take a while. I know that we plan to go to Mars, but we'll just keep going. And it's kind of how people deal with that experience.
Sure.
And you've got a lot of different people.
Things.
Yeah. And so we follow ostensibly this main character, but also like a slice of life and everybody there. And I won't ruin anything, but as the movie starts to stretch on, we start to realize, like, the Mimarobe lady goes to the captain and she's like, it's been like a year. And he's like, it might take longer than a year.
Okay.
And it's how a bunch of like normal people just living their lives have to deal with now being on this ship for a long, long time.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's based, like I said, off this poem, which is like 29 different cantos or something like that.
Oh, wow.
And it was written in 1956, and it's a sci-fi poem. The guy is like a Nobel laureate, like, poet, but he just wrote this poem inspired by apparently like astronomy, but also the Cold War and the Hungarian Revolution that year. And this is, so it's very like bleak. It's very what you think of as like highest suicide rate in Scandinavia.
Yeah.
It's dark 6 months out of the year. And it's just this weird contemplation. And they took it, and it's been adapted. It's like one of Sweden's, like, this is our thing. Like, this is our Lord of the Rings or whatever.
Sure.
So it was made into like an opera and like a stage play. And so now this company made it into a film. And I'll give it a thumbs up review. I'll say that it is very bleak. I'll say that, like, they made, I can't remember what the budget for the film was, but it couldn't have been much, maybe $10 million or something like that, or krona. And they really stretch it very far. It's very emotionally affecting. I just put this on as a lark because I heard somebody said it was good.
Sure.
I got off a list of space horror movies. It's not a horror movie.
Oh, okay.
It's more like a Tarkovsky, like a tone poem type thing. And yeah, it was very affecting, and a bunch of people that you don't know and you'll never see in anything else, but we're all just perfectly cast to just do that thing that they do.
Yeah.
And the main lady was really great, and yeah, it was, I would definitely recommend it. It's called Aniara, Aniara.
Very nice. Well, I am in the middle of reading Melissa F. Olson, friend of the show's latest
and
book.
A recent guest on Craft Disservices.
Yes.
In a show that'll be out any day now, as soon as I can finish editing it.
Yeah, and it's from part of her Boundary Magic series.
Her new book comes out in December.
Yes. So this one that I'm reading right now is called Boundary Broken. It's it's the fourth one in the series, and it came out earlier this year. And as you said, the next book in the series, which is Boundary Haunted, comes out December 3rd of this year. So 2 books in this series came out this year, which is kind of interesting. But it continues the story of Lex, who is a boundary witch. So it's urban fantasy, I should say. And a boundary witch is somebody who uses death magic. So other witches don't. She's kind of like an outcast from like other witches because they're like weirded out by her because she can see ghosts and stuff like that. And so she's like weird even by witch standards. But she just kind of became a part of this community rather recently because she, in the last couple of years, because her abilities as a witch were kind of latent. And she has all these friends now who are, like her boss is a vampire. She's like the head vampire of Colorado. Her boyfriend's a vampire. She has some friends who are witches. Her twin sister was killed by a werewolf, so she's not super keen on werewolves.
Okay.
But this book actually, in particular, deals with werewolves quite a bit. There was a really horrible werewolf about 20 years prior who, like, turned all of these people into werewolves. You turn people into werewolves by biting them, basically, or attacking them. And just attacked a whole bunch of witches and everything. He was really terrible. And the head vampire, Maven, made this deal with the head of the witches in Colorado 20 years ago. Like, we will keep werewolves out of Colorado for 20 years. We'll make this pact.
Okay.
But Maven, she's been around, she's old. She's been around a really long time. And she made this deal with this pack of werewolves from Wyoming, neighboring state, that they could have a weekend pass and come into Colorado for the weekend and roam around as werewolves. Because they get, like, when the moon is full, they kind of have to be a werewolf for a while.
Right.
Otherwise, they're kind of in their human form.
Get out of Colorado.
Right, exactly. So things kind of actually go south at the beginning of this book
to Wyoming?
Well, in Colorado, their couple werewolves end up dead. And the plot thickens as the story continues, but they're trying to get to the bottom of this. Who would want werewolves dead? And like it seems to get connected
Vampires.
to a whole bunch of different things. Well, that's one thing, but they also think witches because at least some people think witches because witches wanted werewolves out of Colorado.
Wyoming's north of Colorado.
Okay,
New Mexico south.
It's all good. But the story continues, and Lex is trying to get to the bottom of it, as well as she feels really responsible because the head of this pact of werewolves called in a favor for her. Like, he helped her out one time, and so, like, she owed him a favor, and she reciprocated that, but she feels like a lot of this really bad stuff happened on her watch, so she feels really responsible for it and wants to get to the bottom of it even more. But it's, it's very entertaining. It's fast paced. I'm a third of the way through already. So I would recommend it.
If you would ever, I wonder if I really like Melissa's work. It's funny to me because if you said like, hey, it's a vampire book, I'm like, great. A lot of those.
Yeah.
But yet she manages to bring both like a fresh perspective to it, but also a real, I don't know, some people really like the crazy, like, I was descended from Cain, the originator of the but hers is like, yeah, whatever, dude. Like, she's got like a real, especially like her main characters, her heroines have like a real, all right, whatever. I'm kind of cut through this in that Buffy kind of way, know, where the vampire's doing one thing and it's like, look, I got my show's on, so let's wrap this up.
Exactly.
Like a real kind of practical kind of view of it that makes them, exciting and kind of different than a lot of your fantasy type stuff.
Yeah, and another big part of Lex's character is was a soldier over in Iraq. So, I mean, she has a little PTSD from that, as a lot of people would. So, I mean, that plays into the story as well. And, even though you're these powerful characters, you still have vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's good. That also the owing somebody a favor and being stuck between factions. These are all like noir kind of tropes.
Absolutely.
or like gangster crime movie type tropes too.
Sure.
So, yeah, sounds great. So check that out. And Boundary Haunted is out first week of December.
Yes.
And Melissa will be on Craft Disservices talking about Super Mario Brothers, the movie, pretty soon. Let's talk about the news. Well, the big news is, of course, the launch of Disney Plus.
Yes.
We don't have any reviews of Disney Plus content this week, but that'll be coming up soon. But we can talk about the launch of the platform. It was a little rocky.
Yes. Like, I think surprisingly, because you would think that Disney would be prepared,
There's no way to know exactly what the effect of 10 million subscribers which is their count as of a couple days ago, might even be higher now, would have on your service. You're never going to be fully ready.
Yeah.
And I saw some initial things, and of course there will always be people who totally freaked out. But I have plenty of friends who are just watching away and just loving it. I'm seeing a lot of social media posts of people discovering things like, oh, this is on here?
Right.
And finding a lot of little tidbits, which is both good because Disney has a real deep catalog, but also, there's some big things that aren't on there. And so it's like the early days of Netflix where it's like, Mansquito was on here.
I know. One of the early things that I remember being available to view digitally on Netflix, because they used to send discs out, I remember back then, was The Office. I remember it being on there like really early on, and that's actually how I watched a lot of the series.
Yeah, and well, it was on TV.
Yeah, that's true.
It hadn't ascended to, thanks to the millennials, I guess, to like the sort of cultural pantheon that it is now. It was always popular, but
absolutely.
Now it's just, now you can launch, say, an Office podcast.
Sure.
Get off my lawn, ladies. But anyway, the news about the thing is, of course, like I said, 10 million subscribers on its first day. It was expecting around 8 by the end of the year. So even for Disney, seems like that was a little...
a bonus.
Yeah, a little timid. I think 10 million is not... That's easy, right?
I think so.
They'll have 20 by December. But they were being a little cautious, but exceeded that. What else is going on? There was a flap over the fact that some of their programming, specifically The Simpsons, whose early seasons, of course, were in the initial 4:3 TV format, were being blown up for the 16:9 and having some of the frame cut out. They've already responded to this and will be turning that back around. by the beginning of next year.
Okay.
They plan to have them available in the original uncropped format. So nothing to complain about there.
Well, yeah, because I think as we were talking about, you get a lot of sight gags that are cut out.
Yeah, I mean, name one.
I don't know off the top
I can
of my
name
head.
one. The fact that they go to the Duff factory and they show that Duff Light, Duff Dry, and Duff Classic all come from the same tube.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, it's still, you want quality. You're paying for it.
Right, exactly.
I should also mention that Disney stock has hit a record high after the report of 10 million plus subscribers. It is just shy, or at least was just shy, of $150 a share. And then closed midweek about $148 a share. Mm-hmm. So that's a record high for Disney. Netflix stock dropped by 3%.
Okay.
On the same news to $283 a share. So still, wow, that's I didn't know their share was so high.
I didn't either.
So that answers the question where all our money comes from. But yeah, everything is looking pretty good. Reviews of a lot of the shows have been high.
Yes.
I was just going to say, I saw a thing that said, also, they will have more Marvel movies than they said they were going to.
Oh, okay.
They managed to get some of them just before launch. Werner Herzog had high praise for The Mandalorian, which, of course, he appears at least one episode of.
Oh, okay, sure.
He said, it's cinema back at its best.
Okay.
And I can't remember, I'm not going to look it up now for the receipts, but did Werner Herzog weigh in on the whole Marvel movies?
Not that I know of, but that doesn't mean that he didn't, Yeah,
I wonder what he had to say about that, but he has high praise for the show that he is in, which I thought was interesting, and he calls it cinema.
Yeah.
It is cinema.
There you
and
go.
I agree.
Yeah.
But, a lot of the old guard would disagree.
Yes, absolutely.
See The Irishman on Netflix.
Right.
Little news out of the, actually from the same camp, ABC announced that they will stop using their live plus same day ratings for the Nielsen's. So this is the sort of thing where you do live and same day streaming numbers is your ratings, basically.
Yeah.
There's been an updated, as streaming has advented, there's been an updated like a live plus 7 or live plus whatever to measure people who are sitting down and watching it. Either on a broadcast TV or on a same time launch, like when we watch CBS
All Access
shows, and using that plus a number of days out, people who are going to it later to catch it, usually before the next one airs, to get what the rating of that show is. Because if they don't know what the numbers are, they don't know if that show's succeeding or not.
Right.
Except there are many ways to know.
So why
social
are they...
media, word of mouth. There's a lot of stuff. But the thing is that, remember, TV exists because of watch commercials, right?
Yeah.
There'd be no TV if they couldn't put ads under it.
Sure.
And you can't sell ads if you don't know how much to charge people. And you know how much to charge people depending on how many eyeballs you can confirm saw it. But as we saw with shows like Community, where they go, well, look at the numbers. Nobody's watching this. And then it went off the air, and people were like, what? And then it went on to something like Yahoo, who was able to measure how many people watch it through downloads, and like millions of people were watching it.
Right.
Except Yahoo didn't know how to turn a profit off of that, so same difference.
Yeah. So why are they deciding not to do this anymore?
Because it's outdated. Because they are
okay.
getting rid of the old method of just saying how many people saw it the exact time it was on.
Oh, I see.
They are basically, they are adapting to taking into account the plus 7 or the plus how many, people watching it after the fact.
Okay. All right.
Now, that still doesn't help them with live advertising because how many people are going to see this Kotex Wisp commercial?
Right.
It's an old joke. I'm not going to explain. Right at this time that it was on.
Right.
But, it's a whole new world out there. As far as advertising goes, you sell a slot that's for a specific company, or is it random? When you watch Hulu, what ads are you seeing? I know I'm seeing the same Wisp ads over and over again.
Right.
But trust me, these little grubby fingered ad people, they'll figure it out.
Right, right.
If they don't, they're not going to get the money, so they'll figure it out.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I guess that makes sense. I was confused at first, but the way you explained it, it makes sense to me that they're getting away from that because you have to change because of the way that streaming is going. Because people are consuming it in different ways now. So you have to move with the times.
Yeah. Over on the Warner Brothers DC side, Jamie Lawson has been cast as the role of Bella in The Batman. Who's Jamie Lawson? We don't know. She's a Juilliard graduate.
Right.
Never been in a movie before, but we know that her character is named Bella, which that's a placeholder name, right? Have Robert Pattinson starring in your movie?
I know.
So this is your romantic interest.
Saw that,
but it'll turn out to be somebody. I don't know. It'll be somebody that we know or somebody from the books, right?
Yeah, I read an.
She's described as a grassroots political candidate running for office.
Yeah, I saw that. I read an article that was guessing maybe she'd be Batgirl, as a possibility, but I don't know. You don't think so?
Well, if she's don't pair Batgirl with Batman.
Well, sure, right? Because they're in the Bat family.
Maybe. Look, there's a billion people she could be.
Yeah, I know.
Catwoman. Is this where I do the thing where? Well, yeah. Is this where I do the thing where you always go? She happens to be black. I don't think we say that anymore, do we?
I don't know.
She's African American.
Yeah.
As is Zoe Kravitz.
Yes.
So are all of his love interests going to be African American? That's real. That's real progressive.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess we'll figure it out as it gets closer, like who she's gonna actually be.
This is you holding the story under the water until the bubbles stop.
All right. Jeez.
I guess we'll move on because you're uncomfortable. Black Adam has released a poster, and it's set its release date. It will come out December 22nd, 2021.
Okay. It's a ways out, but
yeah, it's far enough out that until they wrap filming on this, I don't believe that it's really going to happen. But the poster's pretty much what you expect. It's just a guy that looks like The Rock, aka Black Adam in silhouette,
right?
Going, I'm Black Adam.
Okay.
He happens to be black.
All right.
Gotcha.
Right. Okay. So we can't even see that it's The Rock, you're saying. It's just kind of looks like The Rock.
But I mean, it was never not, if you just draw pointy ears on The Rock,
it's
Black Adam.
Yeah, I know.
They both have that or they used to have that solid swoosh of hair.
Yes.
That Namor hair.
Yeah.
And he's the most electrifying man. Black Adam has lightning bolts.
Okay. Yeah.
You get it.
I do get it.
Do you?
I do.
What else is happening? It looks like Dr. Sleep is knocked out.
Yeah.
On the mat.
Yeah.
KO'd.
Yeah.
Dream Street.
Did not go over well.
No.
Unfortunately.
You were saying to me the other day, this is a really bad year for movies, and I don't disagree.
It is.
I mean, not money wise. Movies are making more money than ever, but when you look at you look at a movie like Parasite, which is a foreign movie, is not like a $200 million movie.
No.
And I think people are already calling for ooh, this should be a best picture. This shouldn't be just a best foreign picture.
Well, it won the Palme d'Or, right?
Yeah, and I don't want to sign off on that, but
I think it did.
Okay.
Anyway. I swear it said at the beginning.
And it's because there's nothing to compete with it.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right about that. I
am right.
Some of the biggest releases that did well were Captain Marvel and the Avengers Endgame. I'm trying to think of non-Disney blockbuster films that came out this year.
Hobbs and Shaw.
Oh yeah. Did the new Jurassic?
I'm talking about dramas. I'm talking about your Kramers versus Kramers.
Okay, sure.
Kramers versus Kramers. Yeah, that's plurals. What was Meryl Streep in? Oh, she was on Netflix.
Right.
Maybe that's the problem.
No
wonder Scorsese's so angry. We don't have any reviews of Apple Plus, TV Plus content either, and I don't know if we're going to.
You don't want to see.
You don't want to see.
Yeah.
That's the review.
Yeah. You don't want to see.
Don't bother to see. Because they're almost all getting bad reviews. They're all of questionable, possibly problematic Like the Steve Carell one where he's like Matt Lauer, but not like he's accused of being a sex guy, and then the women like take advantage of it, and it just anyway. I don't know. Maybe we'll have a review of some Apple TV stuff in the future. That Ron Moore show looks okay, but apparently it's not doing good. And the executive who's in charge of content is leaving the service. Due to those mediocre reviews.
That's bad news.
Yes.
That's real bad news because it's still early days for that, I think. So.
A guy named Kim Rosenfeld. He was at Sony TV for a long time.
Oh boy.
So Apple, when you go shopping, if you go shopping at the bargain store, you're going to get bargains.
Right.
So anyway. That's bad news there, but maybe Apple TV should keep its eyes open to see, because looks like Rob Thomas wants to get the Party Down gang back together.
Oh, geez. Rob Thomas, do something new. That's what I say. Why go back to the well? Why continue going back to the well?
Because he wants to be in charge of both the birth and the death of the things he created.
Well, he's doing a bang-up job so far.
There's already a gravestone with the words Veronica Mars on it.
I know.
So why not go for Party Down?
Because it's... Oh, my God. Why? and you know, Party Down, I really enjoyed it. But a lot of those people went on to do other things, and I don't know if you would necessarily be able to get them back.
Yeah, you would, wouldn't
you? You think so?
Yeah, we just watched... What did we watch? We watched a... Living with Yourself or whatever on Netflix because we were bored because there's no good movies.
Yeah.
Sorry, Gemini Man, I forgot. And and it was not great.
No.
But it had Paul Rudd in it.
Yeah.
It had I can't remember the guy's name. Jonathan, the guy that plays Congressman Jam or whatever on Parks and Rec, who's in a lot of stuff.
I didn't recognize him.
Yeah, and it had what's her name from Arrested Development.
Mm-hmm.
It like had a lot of talent in it, and like they're not, the script's not funny, and they're not doing anything funny. But yet, why would they do that? Because Netflix has a bunch of money, and it just threw it at them when they could have gone. Like she was on Transparent for a while. She clearly does stuff that she wants to do.
Yes.
And then it's like, well, do you want to do like a dumb Paul Rudd series for a bunch of money?
It's like, yeah, I do. Apparently.
Yeah. So. Yeah, if it was on Netflix or something, they'd throw money at it and they'd be able to get everybody back. You think Ken Marino's going to say no?
Probably not. I guess the one I'm thinking of that is Jane Lynch, but what has she really done lately? So I don't know. Maybe you'd be able to get her back.
Exactly.
So it shows you what I know.
Go.
All right.
Shows you what I know. Real quick, we'll talk about the Uncharted movie, which has gone on so long.
Yes.
And been in development for such a long time that the guy who was being looked at to play Drake is now being looked at to play Sully. Mark Wahlberg is in talks to play Sully to Tom Holland's Drake.
Okay.
Making this Uncharted Babies.
Yeah, right?
Right? If your Drake is too young... then I guess your Sully's too young.
Yeah.
The problem is that if this is going to be like the like the first chapter of Uncharted 3 where he's a kid or whatever.
Yeah.
Tom Holland's always going to look like that. He's never going to grow up into Nathan Fillion.
Be like bulked out. Yeah.
And Mark Wahlberg is already 50 and he's just going to look like that forever, right?
Right.
So you're not... Sony. Nobody else thinks this is a bad idea?
I know. I don't know. I guess it could be okay, but it's going to be a little different from your video game series. That's for sure.
From my video games that I love so much. And stopped playing the fourth one after like the second chapter because I was like,
I know.
This is literally just holding down X and pushing the stick up. And he goes, oh, I almost fell down. Oh.
Yeah, and then like a bajillion cutscenes. Like those movies have always been like, I mean, those movies, I did that on purpose. No, I didn't. But like those video games have almost always been like movies. Like seriously, there's not a whole lot you actually do in them that is an actual video game.
I feel like they got worse.
Yeah.
Uncharted 2 is a pretty good game and it's a pretty good story. But I don't know. Maybe my patience for them is just, you know what I really liked? I liked the Uncharted Vita game.
Really?
Yeah, because of it was developed on the console for the console, and so it was designed to show what it could do, and so it used the touch screen and also the back touch screen a lot to like manipulate things, and you'd like, oh, Sully, I found this dig, and you'd like brush the dirt off of it, with the touch screen and stuff, and so yeah, I mean, just that's me being involved in the storytelling,
right,
and not just watching a movie that I push X during every once in a while.
Right, exactly.
That's a Hideo Kojima game. Review of Death Stranding coming soon, maybe. What else? Speaking of Netflix, Netflix has licensed the rights for Beverly Hills Cop from Paramount.
Oh, boy.
To make a Beverly Hills Cop 4 with Eddie Murphy.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
Why would Paramount give Beverly Hills Cop 4 away?
I don't know.
From their perspective. From Netflix's perspective, you guys...
Why would you do number 4?
That's a big gamble. I mean,
it is.
People miss, My Name is Dolomite. Like, people miss Eddie Murphy.
Mm-hmm.
But, he left Hollywood for a reason.
Yeah. Right.
Pluto Nash.
Yeah, I know.
Beverly Hills Cop 3.
Right. So, it seems like a weird combination there, if you ask me.
Netflix they'll do anything.
They have proven that. It's not a good look, I gotta say. Be a little choosier, Netflix.
Well, they're definitely forward, fashion forward, or whatever you want to say. Depeche Mode here. They want to get... If he's got a renaissance coming, and people really like the Dolomite movie, then they want to be the first in.
Okay,
and they're got the money.
Yeah, they
or at least they've got the credit, and so they want to, go for it. Mm-hmm. I bet they've got some. So people used to think that like Uwe Boll was laundering Nazi gold or whatever, and that's how like he made his movie. The truth is that he was just laundering probably regular German businessmen's gold, some of which may have been sourced gold from the Nazis.
Yeah.
Netflix must have some producer's scheme here where they can borrow whatever and spend it, and then success or fail,
they'll still be on top.
Yeah. Mm-hmm, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Because like there's just there must be no downside.
Yeah.
There must be no consequences.
Yeah.
Although, man, we keep hearing how much debt they're in.
I know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Some last drips and drabs of the news here, and then I thought we'd talk about a couple trailers, or maybe one trailer that came out recently.
Okay.
It looks like Charlie's Angels did not do very well at the box office here.
Yeah, that's
coming in at probably around, maybe a little over $10 million.
That is not a lot of money as far as movies are concerned.
Say that it's, I don't know the Rotten Tomatoes, but it's been pretty well reviewed.
Mm-hmm.
People are singling out Kirsten Stewart specifically as being pretty good in it.
Yeah.
And to hear that it's not good, combining this with the poor performance of Terminator Dark Fate, is this the end for ladies doing it for themselves?
I don't think it is.
Shut up.
Stop.
See, it was the end.
Yeah, no. I don't think it is. I just kind of wonder if anybody was really asking for this, but they decided they were going to do it.
No, nobody was.
Yeah, I know.
No, this is Paramount, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Paramount. Paramount's in so much trouble, man.
I know.
Les Moonves, you crazy sexual maniac.
I know.
You were right.
Yeah. Well.
Does this put more pressure or less pressure on Star Trek? We're going to get a Star Trek 4. No problem.
Yeah.
Or a Star Trek Prime. We'll just reboot it again.
Right.
There's no way that they can Terminator down, Charles Angels down, giving away Beverly Hills Cop.
I know.
We can't not have a Star Trek, no matter how badly it does. This is Quentin Tarantino, $25 million. Do what you're going to do. It's Tarantino. People will come out no matter what. The 9th film, the 10th film or whatever by Quentin Tarantino. And it'll make $500 million back in business, $8,000.
Right.
That's my theory.
Yeah, no, I think that is totally plausible. I think it's unfortunate that Charlie's Angels did not do well. I don't think it's because it's a woman-led film. I think it's just people aren't really excited about Charlie's Angels for whatever reason.
Or anybody who's in it.
Yeah, honestly.
This probably doesn't bode well for her sci-fi film that's coming out. next year.
I didn't know she had a sci-fi film.
Yeah, it looks like, I don't think it's going to be any good, but it looks like an abyss, or not the abyss, like a Leviathan type thing.
Okay.
They're in a deep sea habitat, and something's attacking them. And
okay, sure.
You saw the trailer, didn't you?
I don't think
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
It looks like that. What else? I clicked on a story. Here it is. The Witcher Season 2 is being greenlit. It's happening.
I heard that.
Check it out.
Without Season 1 premiering yet.
It's going to be great.
Yeah.
And again, Netflix, always in the news, Netflix has inked a deal with Nickelodeon to create original animated features and shows.
Yeah. They're trying to...
They're running scared from Disney.
Yeah, they're trying to keep on top of it.
Although they could never be scared.
Yeah, but they're nervous, so they're like, let's make a deal with Nickelodeon, which honestly I think is a good idea on Netflix's part. Because honestly, I've heard a lot of people saying that they have chosen to go with Disney Plus because there is a lot of content available for kids. And I think that Netflix getting a piece of that pie is going to make them more of a runner in this race, like it's going to make them more competitive.
I guess. Do you know that, what's her name? We just talked about her. Little girl.
Kristen Stewart?
Kristen Stewart is going to be in a movie about Gene Seberg. She's going to play Gene Seberg.
No, I don't think I know who Gene Seberg is.
Oh boy. All right, let's talk about trailers. Okay. I guess we won't be talking about the Seberg trailer. Sonic the Hedgehog. What'd you think? The new design is in.
I think the new design looks way better and way less Uncanny Valley.
And the branding is specifically, it's like, it says new official trailer. Yeah. Not just like, the official trailer.
Right.
Not the teaser. This is like the new official trailer.
Yeah, they want to make it incredibly
clear. He's wearing
clear.
Shoes and gloves, everybody. Don't worry.
Exactly. Yeah. And his face is not nearly as weird. Do you think, and I feel like we talked about this on the show, but maybe we didn't. Maybe it was off the air. Do you think that they made him look weird on purpose to create buzz around the film?
I don't. Occam is sharpening up his razor. I mean, what would be the point of that?
Yeah, I know.
I can't remember if I said this on the show, but it's true that, when you see a teaser like that first one was, it is basically, whenever you see effects in like a teaser or even like an early trailer, that's all that's done. Mm-hmm. So if all they had done was a meow, like bad looking Sonic, and he's drumming on some missiles or something like that, if that's pretty much all they had finished, ready to go, you could drop that. Now you've got wireframes, you've got basic animations for everything else, then couldn't you just, it would take time, and I haven't seen the paychecks or pay stubs, which would be the proof that they needed to hire extra workers or, unfortunately crunch the ones they had, but I think it's all true, right?
Yeah, I guess.
You come out with some designs, you probably got like a couple different like skins saved, and you go, well, we're going to go with this one. This one tested a certain way.
Right.
But the biggest test of all is, do people like that teaser trailer? And the answer was no.
Exactly.
And so they went with this instead. I love the fact this is also a Paramount film.
Yeah.
Get ready.
We're
going to be presiding over the funeral of Paramount Pictures next year.
I would not be surprised.
Yeah.
And I think this was mentioned, like, I know there were, like, articles about it, but, like, James Marsden has been in this position before where he's, like, playing opposite, like, an animated character, and it's like, why? Why James Marsden?
There's
why
a lot
don't
of whys
you Why don't you
career.
learn your lesson here?
This is just a better film. It just gives you a better idea of the story. I think
so,
that the beats are clearer. I'm sure the dumb jokes, like the really lame jokes that were in the first one, might still be in the film, but we're just this is the sizzle. We're getting the sizzle here.
Yeah, I agree.
He's running around the Green Hill Zone, and we're seeing what looks like a Sonic that we can recognize.
Yes, I would agree.
Good stuff. Yeah. The Invisible Man.
I thought we talked about this one last week.
Let's not talk about The Invisible Man.
Okay.
When did the Sonic one come? This didn't come out more than a week ago, did it?
No, but I don't think we talked about it last week.
We're really good at this. Anyway, Sonic comes out on Valentine's Day.
Yeah, which is a weird choice.
The Invisible Man.
Yeah.
Because of love.
Because of love. Psychotic, crazy, Invisible Man love.
That's my favorite Van Morrison song.
Welcome to Virtual Theater. I'm Andy Spiteri.
And I'm Gooey Fame.
The day bison graced your village was the most important day of your life. But for me, it was Tuesday.
If you're a gamer, a movie buff, or both, you're going to want to check out our podcast on video game movies and the stories that shape them.
Luigi, it's a mushroom. Come on.
Trust the fungus.
We let you decide which movies we cover via Twitter poll. So be sure to follow us on Twitter at Virtual Theater X.
Right, you can hear him talking.
Yeah. Pika, pika, pika.
They can't understand me, kid.
And give us 2 thumbs up by subscribing on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts.
The fate of billions will depend upon you. Sorry.
We are a part of the Just Enough Trope Network.
All right, before we get into our discussion about these children's fantasy books, do you want to say some short words about the Rick and Morty premiere?
Yeah.
We would scarcely be a nerd podcast if we didn't talk about
Rick and Morty. Yeah, well, that's very true. I liked it. I thought it was entertaining. I think you did mention though that like it kind of like silenced the female character like kind of towards the end of the episode.
what I if you're going to quote me,
yeah,
right. What I said is that I've never okay, all right. Glenn and Les Charles, right? They created Cheers, is that correct?
Sure.
Do you feel like if they made something else, and I'm sure they made other shows, I can't remember what they made, would it feel like Cheers? Did they make Dear John? That always felt like Cheers to me.
I have no idea. I don't know what Dear John is.
This is why we need a dedicated producer here to do
like
all this
look
stuff for
up
us.
while we're on air.
Producer. But anyway, Dan Harmon can't really do that much day to day, though. Does he? Does he really do things day to day on the show?
I don't know that he
does.
does.
He have final approval on all the scripts? And because the reason I'm talking about this is because. No, they did not. They did Mary Tyler Moore Show, Taxi. I can't believe they didn't do.
Okay.
And Pushing Tin. Do you know they did Pushing Tin?
No.
Do you know what Pushing Tin is?
Isn't that like the golf movie?
The
No?
golf movie?
Okay.
Golf movie? What's a golf movie? Oh, no, that's Tin Cup.
Tin Cup.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking
Close.
of. Okay.
Close.
All right.
No,
I
Dear
don't know.
John was based on the original British Dear John TV show, which was by John Sullivan.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, there you go.
Just a wealth of information. That's why you listen. He's Dan Harmon. I listened to his podcast. I watched Community.
Yeah.
I don't think of myself as like a huge stan, but I feel like this guy is in my life, and for good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that he is very self-conscious, and a lot of his output is self-reflexive.
True.
Now, if he wasn't such a controversial figure, if he stopped with the tweets and everything, maybe he wouldn't have a career.
That's entirely
because if nobody's
possible.
mad at him,
Yeah.
he's got nothing to make a character who is really complaining about how people are mad at him about X or Y about.
Yeah, true.
And I just feel like right away we get a bunch of stuff that is just, reflexive to what has happened in the last year or two since the show's been on.
Yeah.
So
I hear you.
He's got, people, he's running around. Are we going to talk about the story? Rick and Morty go off on a thing. They find these crystals
the
that
death crystals
show you how you're going to die.
Yeah.
Which I'm going to criticize in a second. And Morty's response is that one of the deaths that he sees is that him dying in Jessica's arms. Jessica's the character that he likes. And so he starts making all these ridiculous, dangerous decisions because they all will resolve in him getting to that end.
Yes.
And in the meantime, Rick is having to deal with Rick dies accidentally, but he has got a plan for that, and he's got to get back home through this trial of all these like resurrections.
Yes.
And they're all it's a good gag, but to me it seems like he resurrects as a shrimp and then as a monkey man or something and as a wasp or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're all in these like universes where Nazism is the prevailing culture.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a commentary, but it's also, I think, him not liking people yelling at him online and just the general appreciation of online discourse becoming so sharp and negative. Yeah. And then also, you've got like, a female character who...
Summer.
I thought season 3 was great for Summer. Like, she really grew as a character.
Yeah.
And we were getting Beth in there. And then immediately self-consciously silencing like that character.
Yeah.
And doing it in a way that you can go, well, that's the joke. But it's like, but if we don't see Summer do anything again for the rest of the year, like
then why
that quacks like a duck.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I mean, Rick, like, unhappy with being in a reality where Nazism is prevailing, will like kill himself, and so he goes to he's reborn in a different reality, and most of those it's like Nazism too, except for the Wasp one, which is the one we end with. But
and the only like real laugh out of that is the third one, basically. Is it? Who's counting? But is the one where he's already been through it once, and then he's like, as long as you guys don't like Nazis, and then the guy's like, and then,
exactly.
Then he's running down the street. There's swastikas everywhere. That's like the one good laugh you get out of that entire part.
Well, you're not wrong.
So I don't know. I mean, there's going to be so many more seasons of this.
I know.
And so many more opportunities to make jokes. I want to be that person that I hate, which is this the beginning of the end for Rick and Morty?
Oh my God.
I mean, when the main character can die 6 times in an episode, should we ever worry about them? Like, what are the stakes?
Well,
and that's been a problem almost since day one.
Almost from the beginning.
But I just really felt like I felt it this time around.
Yeah, I mean, I've completely lost track on what version of Rick or Morty we're on right now.
It doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
and
I know.
Not to mention, like, the crystals really cuts to the heart of that, because it's all done for this gag, which if you haven't seen the episode, I'm not going to spoil, but this gag of where Morty, copyright, wants to end up when he dies. But these crystals how do they work their bullshit?
Yeah, I know.
Because it's Rick. What is death? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How come Rick doesn't see himself impaled on a rock when he's touching the crystal during the gunfight?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because that's where he's going to end up.
Yeah.
But is that even death? Why doesn't he see himself being beaten to death by Nazi shrimp?
Yeah.
Why doesn't he see... how do they work?
Yeah,
and the answer
what your point is.
It doesn't really matter how they work, and I get that. And it's also a device for them to provide all those other facet deaths, which I watched a YouTube video that broke all those down, and it was very fascinating. But for me, that is the strokiest thing you can do. That's them trying to recreate, was it last season's first episode when they did the split realities?
I don't
remember that,
when that was,
with
though.
the cats?
Sure.
I can't remember if that was the second or the third one, but they've got this... Oh, no, the third one last year was him blowing up the entire thing, so it was the second season.
Okay.
But I feel like they've got this reputation for, like, we got to blow everybody away in the first episode.
Right, because we got to set
the stage. So this time we're going to... so think of all the writing you'd have to do and all the extra animation you'd have to do and all the things you'd have to do to make just a tiny little 2-second sight gag in the corner of the thing where you see the bully is... pouring lava down his throat or whatever's going on.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple things that look like they might be suggestions of where they're going to end up. Like the crystal, if you went this way, you'd still end up on the planet of marshmallows, but the marshmallows would kill you.
Right.
They're going to go to a planet of marshmallows in episode 3.
Sure.
Where they won't die, but maybe they would have if they... I mean, I love that, but that for me is the real nitty-gritty Szechuan sauce shit side of Rick and Morty, and not like the heart and like what are we trying to say here.
Right, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So use that crystal, stick it on your head, and let's steer back towards like this show being about something. That's what I say.
Yeah. I think it was
and cast Jared Burns in something. That guy's great.
I think it was entertaining, but I think it could have been a stronger first episode.
Thank you for summing up my point.
Okay.
Let's get into the darkest of the materials, really the dankest of the materials.
Yes.
Has somebody done that?
I don't know.
There's our show art.
Yeah, right.
Time down for what? It's just Lyra, big fatty. You know, it's like this is the dankest.
Wow.
The dankest of materials. It's a 3-novel trilogy.
Yes.
That's how trilogies work.
You got it.
And it is by Philip Pullman.
Yes.
A guy who, as we began speaking about at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
He'll let you know.
Oh, yeah.
He'll let you know about stuff.
Oh, he will definitely not go quietly.
I bet you would, trapped in an elevator, just be interminable with him, right? Like, I'm glad, I think he's a good writer.
Yeah.
I read these books a while ago. I'm glad that he wrote them, but oh boy, you wouldn't want to be that guy's neighbor.
Yeah, probably not. I have only read the first one so far. Which, I mean, do we want to talk about the books first, or do we want to get into the
Well, since
TV
we're
show?
talking about the show, I think that we should talk about the show.
Okay.
So, having watched the first 2 episodes of the show,
yes,
which kind of sets you into the world here and gets the conflict going,
yeah.
Tell us about HBO's His Dark Materials.
So, we meet Lyra, who is an orphan at Jordan College. And her uncle, who is a powerful explorer named Lord Asriel, has come to visit. She kind of sneaks into a room that she shouldn't really be in, and he gets her to spy on some people as he does this presentation. And his presentation is about this thing called dust, which she doesn't really know what it is. This is the first she's ever heard of it. She's kind of a mischievous, curious kid, and she pals around a lot with her friend Roger, who is another kid at Jordan College, is where they are in Oxford, England, and it's a world similar to ours, but not. It doesn't graft exactly onto ours. They have every human, yes,
all of them
has a creature that kind of is representative of their souls, and it's written like Damon, but it's pronounced demon. And when they're a young kid, the demons continue to change shape, so that they're in an animal form. They're always in animal form, but they can change their shape from one animal to another. And then when they become more mature, as kind of like mid-teen, their demon chooses a single shape, and that's what they'll be the rest of their lives. And that is a major part of the series. And early on, and there's this group called the Egyptians, and they are a boat-faring people. And there is a little boy, Billy Costa, who is missing. And it is rumored that he is taken by these people that are called the Gobblers. And Gobblers take little kids. They don't know why. But the Egyptians swear they're going to find the Gobblers and save the kids. And that is a huge part of the story. And then Lyra also meets somebody who she finds to be very fascinating, a woman named Mrs. Coulter. And she ends up going to live with her in London.
And they take an airship.
Yes.
Because this is an alternate steampunk universe.
It is. And they have 30s style cars for
Nothing
some reason.
tells me that steampunk is kind of over more than the fact that there's airships in this, but they're not like, oh, they're all brass.
Right.
Oh, you know, if anything, they're kind of sleek. And even the 2007 movie, which maybe we'll talk about in a little bit, seemed to kind of, I don't know, some elements where you think it'd be real, like, oh, gears and gauze and goops and doops.
Right.
And put these goggles on.
Yeah.
Everybody's got to have goggles. Zack Snyder. And this is, like we said, I mean, it's probably the first, maybe half or almost to the halfway point of the book in this first book in these 2 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are a few elements that are seeming to set up things that would come in the next 2 books.
Yeah.
And this is a long-awaited sort of thing. Like we said before, there was a real abortive adaptation in 2007 by New Line Cinema, who was, here's the deal. Movie companies always say that they never make any money from anything, because if they make money, then they have to profit share, because that's how you make a movie in the first place. And we know that that's not true, because what's his name?
What's his name?
He's from New Zealand. He's Peter Jackson.
Yeah.
He sued them for all the money that they owed him for those for those movies, and eventually won, and they paid him. But whatever they did with that money, it went somewhere, because they made his The Golden Compass, the first film in a planned trilogy, to be the new Lord of the Rings.
They were making it out to be that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if you watch the trailer for the 2007 movie,
Yes.
it starts with like a ring flipping in the air.
Yep.
And you're like, and then it turns into a compass. The Golden Compass.
Yeah.
The Lord of the Rings movies of the second half of the aughts.
Yeah. Right.
Wrong.
Yeah.
No.
Right.
It failed. And basically
Terribly.
is known as one of the things, if not the major things, that destroyed New Line as a brand. They technically exist still, not around as a studio anymore, because of the failure of Golden Compass.
Yeah.
No, thank you, the world said.
Yes.
To a movie starring Nicole Kidman, starring James Bond.
Yeah. Daniel Craig.
Ian McKellen is the voice of the polar bear.
Okay, sure.
Sam Elliott is the thing.
Yes.
Christopher Lee's in it. Jack Jong, the guy from Downton Abbey, is in it. This movie is packed solid with stars. With stars.
Yeah.
A bright, shining constellation of stars.
Yeah.
Directed by some guy nobody's ever heard of, and starring some girl nobody's ever really heard of. But otherwise, could have been huge. Polar bears punching each other.
Absolutely.
Failed.
Yeah, I know. It's always kind of interesting to me too when a movie fails when it's intended to be the start of something. It's intended to be like a 3-movie production.
The game's afoot.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
No,
it's not. We'll never see you again.
No, exactly. And we're looking for more adventures coming soon.
And
we aren't.
And a lot of people will do our best. This is a show that hasn't finished yet, so we can't spoil what's coming up, but we'll do our best to not spoil the books really either for you if you haven't read them or even seen The Golden Compass. But I will say that, as somebody who's completed the first book, let's say, you haven't seen the 2007 movie.
No,
although
I
do recommend that you watch it. I don't think it's terrible, but it's not great. There is something very affecting and important that happens in like the last 10 pages of the first book.
Oh, yes.
That doesn't happen at the end of the movie.
Absolutely. Oh, okay.
That's how much that polar bear punch was pulled. They cut almost all the religious implications and elements, and that thing that happens doesn't even happen. They're just like sailing away in the airship, and they're like, I hope we solve this mystery. Why would anybody want a second movie out of that?
Yeah, that's really strange to me.
It should end that way, and you go, oh, I gotta see the next movie. Like, what's going to happen?
Right. Like, this is really dark. How do we come back from this?
Yeah. Nope. It just... we did it.
That's weird. That is really bizarre to me.
I know. A movie where... Ava Green is a flying witch.
I know.
and yet, nothing.
I know. I mean, when I read that in the book, it was something like
25-year-old Ava Green is a flying witch.
I know, right?
No, we don't want that.
No, apparently not.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
So yeah, real bad news, real mismanaged as a property. How do you think BBC HBO is doing?
I think they're doing a decent job so far, although I will say as a warning to other people, there is something that happens, I guess, in the second book that is in the second episode.
Oh,
so
yeah, well, we mentioned that.
Yeah. So I was kind of like, what? But
Freddie Highmore is the voice of Pantaleimon.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm still on the 2007.
It's okay.
I was really disappointed. I walked into that thing going like,
this is it.
This is it. There's rings and there's men and compasses.
They thought this was it too, and they were going off of the back of not just Lord of the Rings.
They were all of them deceived.
Well, yeah, like I read an article that was talking about other books that came out around the same time as this series, and some of them being Harry Potter and another being Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Which were hugely popular and were adapted way more successfully.
Well, no, not really.
You don't think so?
No, I think that Game of Thrones was clearly not successful. This is the thing about Game of Thrones. Everybody woke up from a dream in season 8 and was like, oh my God.
Guess.
And I'm like, you can find social media posts from me from like 2010, 11. I'm like, I don't understand. Like, I watch it because everybody watches it, but what are they talking about? It's like the best show. It's not the best show on TV. It's not even top 10.
Okay.
But anyway, we don't want to go back. We want to go forward.
Yeah.
I'll talk since you don't seem to want to.
I didn't say I didn't want to.
I like it so far. I really do. I think that it's interesting because to me it seems much more than the sum of its parts. There isn't anything about it that I think stands out as being, oh, this is going to be really great. The guy who is basically writing and overseeing it, Jack Thorne, is never done. He's done a lot of stuff and nothing ever that I really thought was real great. He is working on, or he did a draft of the Rise of Skywalker, but who knows where they're at on that point. That's actually a news thing that I didn't bring up. A lot of people are working on, there's some really weird names of people who are working on Rise of Skywalker.
Oh, okay.
You can only have 4 writing credits on a movie, right? No matter who works on it.
Right.
In this case, it is, of course, we'll say it's based on characters created by George Lucas.
Yeah.
But Colin Trevorrow and Derek Connolly's names are still on it.
Really?
Yes.
That's so bizarre to me.
The implication was that once JJ came on, and he basically said in interviews that they are starting from scratch.
Yeah.
Also, you probably just have to because...
Well, right.
Your main character died.
Right.
But I mean, the actress.
Yes.
But yeah, so we don't know if this is just they're using elements or what. But
okay, but there's still a big
probably
portion
just bad
of it
news
there.
all around, though.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So anyway, but Jack Thorne is involved in this thing, and he did the Cursed Child play.
Oh, okay.
He wrote that.
Harry Potter.
Yeah. Remember Wonder? That Luke Wilson movie that too many Christians liked for me to think that was any good.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so far I like it.
Yes.
I think it's I've heard it say that it's solid, but it needs a little more magic. And I don't disagree, but I think they're leaving it somewhere to go.
I think so too. I think they've done a really good job of establishing this world and it being a little different from our own.
Yeah. I think the cast is not as good as the 2007.
Oh, okay.
Look at all the heavy hitters in that thing.
I know.
I'm never going to take James McAvoy over Daniel Craig. Come on. There's something about Daniel Craig.
Yes.
That character, Lord Asriel,
yes,
has to come off the page. You have to feel the threat of this character. What I like about these books is that everything. This is like the first chapter. The kindly master who has basically raised Lyra, because her parents died in an airship accident, immediately tries to poison Lord Asriel.
Yes, and she witnesses
So nice guy tries to kill Lord Asriel.
Yes,
she saves Lord Asriel, and then he kind of goes off. But then you hear all these things about him, and he's like this mysterious figure. Like, is he a good guy or a bad guy?
We don't really know.
No, the nice guy that raised her tries to murder him.
I know.
So everybody is ambiguous in this story.
Well,
and I think that
true.
is played out well in this. But otherwise, like, would I take a Ruth Wilson over a Nicole Kidman? I don't think so. Well, I'm not saying that they're the Bobo version of like the 2007 cast. But I think they're all pretty well cast and are doing it. It's like James McAvoy's too. I think I relate to him too much. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I know what you mean.
But he does play like I really liked him in that 80s music movie.
Sure, right.
What was that? The coldest winter? No, Atomic Blonde.
Yes, yes.
So anyway, he's probably good for Asriel. But Daphne Keene's a real star here.
I agree, and I think
where'd this girl come from?
I know she's very talented,
yes.
And I think you really get into the character pretty easily, and she's the protagonist, so it's a good thing that you're able to relate to her.
Yeah, she's not some stealing kid from the other thing,
right?
I don't know the kid's name, and I don't care. But the kid who plays Roger, looks almost exactly like the kid who plays Roger
in 2007. I noticed that.
There must be an endless supply of bucktooth like urchins that they can just draw on. But he's actually really good too.
Yeah,
it's great kid casting in this.
It is, which is important.
Yeah,
because they play a huge role in it.
And I don't know, when I read these reviews that talk about a lack of magic, I think that what you're seeing is a TV budget, and you're also seeing them lean on the verisimilitude of the world in a way that sells the reality of these characters' reality, but forgets that the audience would be surprised by this. Mm-hmm. So you can have like, oh, it's an airship, and oh, that guy's got a panther or whatever.
Right.
But for them, it's no big deal.
Right.
But for us, there should be a couple moments where we see like, oh boy, this is like really weird, crazy that everybody. But right away, everybody's got animals, and we're just supposed to like accept that, and it's fine, and they can transform sometimes. And, and yeah, I think that the show does a good job of like, because the Golden Compass of the movie, I don't know, this wasn't supposed to be like Golden Compass of the movie versus the TV show, but, there's just so much on display, and it's flashy and gold, and those dresses that Nicole Kidman wears, and it's all on display. And this is supposed to be more grungy, more 50s, England, coal and the crown, type thing.
Right.
Not in the palace, on the streets.
Right. Yeah, we haven't seen Lee Scoresby yet in this, Lin-Manuel Miranda, but I actually read an article where he talks about Sam Elliott portraying the same character in the movie.
Yeah, what does he say?
He said he nailed it. And he was like, he knew that him coming in and playing this character, it was going to be different. He wasn't sure how he was going to approach it.
He's making a habit out of this, huh?
Yeah.
I'll just be Bert Jr.
I guess.
What else can I do? You guys, anybody want to make a sequel to Casablanca? And I'll just be Rick 2?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I think there's something to be said to acknowledge those who came before you and say, oh, they nailed it. And then like, well, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
For this part.
And and also I think people just need to stick with it. This has been renewed for a second season, but there isn't like a set order. And I think it would have been smart for them to just go, look, we're the BBC. Maybe that's I still don't know how their TV works.
I don't either.
Set aside, earmark this amount of government funds or whatever. And then HBO is like, all right, here's a boatload of money because we're HBO, and just say, look, we're going to do 3 years of 8 episodes apiece, do the whole thing. Because we don't know if this is going to make it to the end. This could be another 2007 situation.
No, you're right. I mean, we got a season 2.
I think that the show is leaving you somewhere to go, because if you've read the books, you know that this is based on, in Pullman's words, this is basically a humanist version of Paradise Lost. And if you think about some of the places that Paradise Lost goes, you want to start with a girl tying her shoes in a dirty room.
Right.
Because we're going to end up, that's where the money's going to be.
Right. And I think, that we start with Lyra, who's super adventurous and courageous.
And a bit of a fibber.
She is. But she, she's somebody that you want to follow and you genuinely care about.
Yeah.
I think. And you want to see her grow, and she does as the story progresses. So, I think she's a very interesting protagonist. And somebody that you want to follow.
Yeah. And definitely this actress who, I hope she doesn't do that thing. I call it Portmaning. Where she grows up and then it's like, oh, okay, I'll just be in a movie. It's like, you were such a good actor.
I know,
as a child. Now you're just, what happened?
Yeah, I hear ya. I hope she doesn't do that either.
Oh, she's playing Jackie Kennedy? Perfect.
Right.
This is the White House. It's like, perfect. Wow. It's unkind. But anyway, so let's dig into it here. We've talked a little bit about the series. I know that you're not like fully familiar with it, but I think you're starting to get the idea at this point, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And so you got this guy, Philip Pullman, and he's obsessed with religion, I think.
Yeah. I think that's a fair statement.
I won't get into his full background, but he is an accomplished guy and went to Oxford himself. That's a lot of the first book is based in and around Oxford and some of his experiences there. And he's had an interesting life. He's somebody who I think, even when I was reading Paradise Lost at a Christian college, as an evangelical university, we were already looking at the sort of humanist interpretation of Paradise Lost, which is to say that you can't follow Satan for like 10 out of 12 books in this thing and not see him as the hero and the main character.
Right.
And the idea of, American society, even Western society, loves people that go out there, loves rebels, loves people that throw it on the line, anti-heroes, and like Satan, looked at from a certain perspective, is that. Now, Paradise Lost paints his rebellion, in the Christian tradition as a great tragedy and God as the ultimate authority. And Philip Pullman decided to look at it from a different perspective, which is, what if you praised that rebellion the way that we do in Western society? And what if God, instead of a loving, power, was just an empty figurehead, basically? And that's polar bears, and you got a story.
Right.
And so that's sort of like how he approaches this thing. It is it's an allegory, it's supposed to be didactic in that way. He also wrote a fictionalized account of the life of Christ called The Good Man Jesus and the Scoundrel Christ, where Jesus is literally two people. They're like brothers.
Sure.
Jesus and Christ. And like, depending on who you're getting that day is like the different sort of versions or expressions that we see of Christ in the Bible.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. Christopher Hitchens loved it. So that tells you everything you need to know about who is backing this guy up. So he wrote this series in the mid-90s. He's actually written a new trilogy, the second book of which came out last month, which is, the first book was a prequel, but the second book actually goes past the events of the trilogy and sort of picks up. So it moves around a lot. He's also done a lot of interesting side material for the series. He wrote like a side quill after the third book came out. He's done like one-shot audio dramas.
Interesting.
And like games and like art books.
Sure.
Like, without actually moving the story forward, he's like continued to make money, but also paint in the edges of the sort of world.
I kind of feel like this is a world that you could do kind of like a D&D type campaign in, and just kind of explore all the elements that are there.
Let's see. You've got Magister, Egyptian,
right.
Scholar, and Urchin. And those are your character classes or something?
Right.
Maybe you need to do a little bit more. Polar bear, of course. Balloon guy, and a witch. Yeah, okay. You might be able to.
Yeah.
Maybe not. A couple more source books.
Yeah, okay.
It's like in the very first West End source book for Star Wars, there was no extra material, which is hilarious because there was, 9 whole hours of material.
Right.
But the only character classes were like recognizable things. So you could either be like a failed Jedi like Obi-Wan. You could be a brash pilot like
Han Solo.
No, because there's Scoundrel. That's Han Solo. So brash pilot would be like Luke or Wedge.
Okay.
Minus the force powers with Luke. And then there was like Ewok.
What?
You could be a droid or you could be an Ewok.
Wow. Yeah, that's kind of like... I mean, I love Ewoks, but I think I'm kind of in the minority. Because lots of people are like...
Start rolling up your character.
Why are these teddy bears, like, fighting and stuff like that, But...
So this... And our premise is kind of shot just based on what we're doing here, because Philip Pullman, like, literally created these things to make a point.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that every artist or writer in any generation doesn't sit down and do something for a point. That's what we're going to talk about. But after a long ass tradition of what we're going to talk about, he said, I want to do this. And I want everybody to know that that I'm doing this. Mm-hmm. I know I'm going to get, people are going to try to ban these things. They're going to interview me. I'm going to wear a shirt that says Pontius Pilate on it instead of Kunta Kinte.
Right.
And I'm going to be very confrontational in a nice British way.
Yes.
About what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
What I want to know is, what was going on with like C.S. Lewis is like, I'm going to make 7 books, an entire mythology that is just clearly just Christ based. It's all Christian. the lion is Jesus. He dies and comes back to life. We get it.
Right.
And just ram this down people's throats, and people are going to be like, yeah, cool.
Right. Exactly.
Chronicles of Narnia.
Yeah.
What? I mean, that's the first thing I can think of. That and like the Lord of the Rings, which is Tolkien has said is his attempt to not like to start a religion or anything, but like to create a mythology for Britain and the British people.
Right.
Like life on the British Isles is just a succession of people showing up and going, hey, it's ours now. Hey, it's ours now. Hey, it's ours now. In French, oh, it's ours now. Like, it's just, there is no real, who are the British people other than just like Picts and Scots, I guess. And so he wanted to give the entire sort of island and all of the peoples like a mythology, a tradition.
Right.
Not to like literally like worship it or something, but just to like, hey, what do you think about this?
Right.
We got elves, we got trolls, we got all the stuff.
This is a cultural touchstone.
And Pullman specifically criticized the both of them, Lewis for all of his proselytizing, and also his like misogyny, which I guess I never thought about.
Huh. Yeah, I mean, I guess there are female characters in the Chronicles of Narnia.
What?
But maybe they don't get to do as much as the boy characters.
It's been so long since I read. I know in like the last battle, like I can't remember but like the original girls don't care about Narnia anymore because they like makeup and boys instead.
Wow.
I don't know.
That's kind of.
It's not that close of a read. The main bad guy in the first one is literally like a woman in power who is trying to. I guess she just wants to control everything, but yeah, we got to get her out of there and get the the patriarchal lion back in charge of the forest and everything. So I don't know. And then he criticizes Tolkien because he said specifically Tolkien is not interested in the interactions between human beings, only like maps and songs and poems and things like that. And it's that's harsh, but it's hard to argue.
Yeah, I mean there are a lot of songs and there are a lot of maps. So but I kind of feel like a lot of people, at least the maps thing, has, when they write their own fantasy or sci-fi stuff, there's a lot of maps involved, I feel like. And maybe Tolkien kind of set the tone for that. I don't know.
Well, Tolkien and Lewis set the tone for a lot of things, which we'll get into. When we think about children's fantasy, like what are we talking about?
Like what other series
Yeah.
are there? Like Peter Jackson. Percy Jackson,
Peter Jackson.
not Peter Jackson. Percy Jackson. Probably the Earthsea novels.
Yeah. Oh, you hit me with that Ursula Le Guin.
Yeah. I know there's other stuff.
Well, so first of all, the Percy Jackson thing is specifically, it was written by the guy was just basically it was a M. Night Shyamalan situation.
Oh, okay. Why do you say that?
Because when we were talking about this before, talking about like why we would talk about this.
Yes.
It was that we feel like everybody has an agenda, not a negative or harmful one necessarily, but they're trying to, they sat down and went, why would I do this?
Yes.
And it's because I've studied this, or I think we're missing this, or I want to teach kids this.
Yes.
And I was just throwing out as a joke, like the only person who never did that was M. Night Shyamalan with The Lady in the Water. It was just a story that he told his kids at night. If he had any goal, it was to make a lot of money.
Right.
And all he ended up doing was ruining Paul Giamatti's career. Yeah. Oh, and also kill the film critic Bob Balaban.
Yeah.
So very basic, self-serving motivations there. But Percy Jackson was a very similar thing. I can't remember the name of the author, but his kid suffers from dyslexia, or did. I don't know. He's an adult now. And so he would tell him these mythology stories at night, but he sort of ran out of stories. And the kid's like, well, give me some more stories. And so he just started making up stories about characters like that. And it was like, oh, I should write this stuff down.
Right.
Percy Jackson.
Right. I think Rick Riordan or something like that
Sure.
is the name of the author.
Sure.
Yeah.
Earthsea's weird because it's
jumps
definitely
all over.
and it's definitely in a sort of a high fantasy style, but I've heard that it's, you know, Ursula Le Guin kind of does what she wants.
Mm-hmm.
She's drawing off of like the poems of Rilke and like the illustrations of Dante Alighieri,
Sure.
or in the illustrations in his work.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, like, you got me on that one.
All right, fair.
That's a mystery. But everything else is just very similar. Like if you look at like the Chronicles of Prydain, that is just Lloyd Alexander doing a Tolkien to Welsh mythology instead of
Sure.
just English mythology.
Sure.
Madeline L'Engle was a big C.S. Lewis fanboy.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
she's just doing very C.S. Lewis-y stuff in the Time Quintet. Yeah. Acknowledging science, you know,
Yes.
trying to kind of merge the science and the spiritual
Yeah.
in her work.
Yeah. No, that's very true.
The Wizard of Oz
Yes.
is about monetary policy
I know.
of the early 20th century.
Yeah. Which is
The
kind of
gold
weird when you think
standard.
about it. Yeah, I know.
OZ, that's the ounces, the measurement of gold.
Yes.
Emerald City, it's green, it's money.
Right. There's a yellow brick road. It's it's
There's
probably
silver
gold.
slippers.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. And then ruby slippers.
Yeah.
How does Harry Potter fit into all of this? And does it?
No.
No? Okay. All right.
No.
All right.
No, Harry Potter, look, don't get me wrong. I think it's great that people love Harry Potter, and it's definitely increased the literacy of many people and made them see that books are a valuable pastime.
Yeah.
But I feel like J.R.R. Tolkien's been, or not J.R.R. Tolkien, what's her name? Rowling.
J.K. Rowling.
She's been very honest about the motivations, which was, I was poor, I was unhappy in my marriage.
Right.
And I just wanted out.
Yep.
And I said, I could just write a cool story about a kid who's kind of in a similar situation, probably take a lot of things from other books and nobody's going to recognize it. And here we are.
Yeah.
And I don't say it's a guilty conscience necessarily, but she has paid a lot of money to charity, possibly to assuage that guilt. But she has definitely paid it back many times over in her charitable giving. And so get away with it, lady. But I don't think that there's anything there other than just the call to adventure. You know, the story about a chosen one, good triumphing over evil, and that sort of thing.
Sure.
No, that's how I see it.
Yeah. I hear ya.
I think it's interesting that something like The Hunger Games was inspired, probably similar circumstances, but also from Theseus and the Minotaur. Suzanne Collins was thinking about, you know, we think about the thread and the maze and everything, but we forget that, you know, it was Thebes, right? Thebes would, I think it was Thebes, would sacrifice a dozen kids every year, you know, to the Minotaur. That was like the tithe that they paid.
Right.
And so she was thinking about that. And I think like Iraq war footage or something. And then she flipped over to American Gladiators, you know, or Big Brother or something. And she was like, yeah.
Right. Let's combine all of these ideas together. Yeah.
So it's just about how government, you know, exploits people, but also we kind of need it because it's her mission to kill President Snow, but then she realizes that maybe he's not the bad guy that she thinks.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Trying to, it kind of tries.
He's no Sauron.
Right. But it
then
tries
why do you get
to...
Donald Sutherland to play him so evilly?
I know, right? But like, it's trying to take this evil character and make him more human, or, you know, he's flawed, but he's not, you know, the anti villain that we, you know, originally thought that he was.
And does it to, I don't know, some level of success. I don't think that she's like the most talented author, but she's pretty far above Stephanie Meyer, though.
Sad.
Well, I don't know if that's true.
Well, I did enjoy the Hunger Game books more than I only read the first book of the
Twilight's just
series.
Mormonism, right?
Yeah.
It's just Mormonism.
I think
if there
so.
was one more book, Edward would have gotten a second wife.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what's going on there?
Yeah. Yeah. So I do think that there's more to the Hunger Games than Twilight, but
I think it's interesting that if you look at something like, remember Aragon?
Yes.
Everybody, the big deal was, it's written by a 13-year-old. That guy's like 30 now, right?
I know, right?
So he's not a 13-year-old anymore.
No.
He's just an author.
Right.
Probably hasn't written anything in a while. But that was literally just him making a self-conscious fantasy. I mean, it's a 13-year-old.
Right.
So think about you
Coming of
being
age.
13 and sitting down and writing fanfic, and it probably wasn't good. His was just better. Mm-hmm. And he was literally writing based on his love of Tolkien and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
But then it was also inspired. He lived in Montana. And you have to imagine any kid that young and that enterprising is weird, right?
I guess.
Families.
I was going to go unique, but
homeschooled.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe his parents were, because most parents are like, whatever.
Yeah, right.
Brought you back from soccer practice.
Uh-huh.
Like they don't, whenever young kids achieve something, I'm always like, what's going on with the parents? But he based a lot of the world on the vistas and landscape of Montana and just his experiences tromping around himself, so.
Yeah, I mean, guess they always say write what you know, right?
Yeah,
so.
but that's if that's true, then why is C.S. Lewis writing about
Lions and Witch of Wardrobes?
It was his wife's name. What was the name of the White Witch?
Oh gosh, I don't remember her name. This is terrible.
That doesn't really matter.
Yeah, but she was.
I'll tell you, P.J. Farmer. I bet he wasn't very happy because there's always like a wife character in his stories that's like
naggy. Yeah,
gets eaten or something.
Great. Oh. I'm excited to read the other books in this series.
Oh, we're done?
Well, I don't know. I'm just saying, I want to see what else gets talked about and the commentary that's there. I'm
interested to see your response because you're not a religious person and you don't really know anything about religion.
I know basics.
So to get into this trilogy that's really, really gunning for religion, in some places overtly so.
Right.
I would be interested to see not only your reaction to it, but just your appropriation of it.
What about like the Phantom Tollbooth?
Oh, like pre-Doctor Who?
Right.
That guy had to be like, oh boy, I'm mad about Kennedy being shot, but I'm really mad about this show about a kid that flies around in a box and learns about science.
Right.
I think that's all it was, right?
I guess.
It's just about like how science is cool. Because he just learns. It's been a long time since I saw it too. And I didn't read it. I only saw the like the cartoon version that came out in like the 60s when like the hippies got a hold of it.
Sure.
So it was all like, groovy dude. Oh. He's got a dog or something. But that's mainly about a kid who doesn't want to do his homework and like learns that science is cool or something, right?
Right. Like the power of learning.
Or just perception or something. Yeah. It's like science fantasy. I'm not sure what you'd call that. There's a lot of things that like, I guess you'd call Roald Dahl fantasy for the most part.
I would agree with that.
There's witches, right?
Yeah.
But then also there's peaches. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, there's a giant peach.
I feel like Roald Dahl was like the first R.L. Stine or J.K. Rowling maybe because he was writing specifically to children.
Yes.
And he was not just trying to rewrite fables or fairy tale stories.
Right.
And his stuff had like this specific character. Like it was gross. It was very violent sometimes.
Yeah.
It sort of
People
reveled
died.
in like grotesqueries and that's a word. And also there was a real element of like class struggle in it too. There was always like poor people and rich people and like that's all just baked into that 20th century or even 19th century British literature. But I found that to be a really interesting indelible sort of element of his work.
Yeah.
And it shows up in J.K. Rowling.
Yeah.
Same way.
Right. I mean, you look at Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, for example. It's definitely present there, and the kids are like, we don't know if they ever get changed back. No, you never know.
Yeah, and they're not. You could map something onto them like Romana Clef style, but none of them have to be anything. Mm-hmm. Like Mike TV is like, or if there are, the stakes are really low.
Right.
So like Mike TV, kids don't watch too much TV.
Exactly.
Violet Beauregard, don't chew too much gum or whatever.
Yes.
Vergasalt, don't be a brat.
Right.
None of it has like this amazing
revelations.
Archetypical sort of stuff. It's just like little tiny little morality shows, and then the guys come out and literally sing a song if you didn't catch the morality.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
There's some, like, if you go far back enough, there's some like kind of weird problematic ones. What's going on with Lewis Carroll? He sure loves to paint and take pictures of nude children.
Yeah,
but in the meantime,
weird, to say the least,
he's made Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, which is something that gets referred to a lot.
I've heard it's too late now. I mean, I suppose you could look around in a history book or something, but like, I've heard that it's partially, that's not a word. It's nonsense, which is what I'm getting at. It's like nonsense genre. Like back then, there was like a thing to just like, oh, this is the gobbledygook boobity boo. Like he pretty much invented it, like with the Jabberwocky. And so a lot of the characters aren't supposed to be anything, but at the same time, maybe the rabbit is Benjamin Disraeli. Maybe the Tea Party or the Never-Ending Race is Parliament.
Right.
Like there's a couple things you could do, but none of them are like really that solid. It's more just, I'm goopy doopy doop boop. Oh wow, that's crazy. You drink this and you get big.
Right.
Oh,
or
that's
like,
foreign taxes.
Right.
No, not really.
Or like the Cheshire Cat, stuff like that. Yeah.
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 Chamberlain. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Who's the Queen of Hearts?
Catherine.
Okay.
Catherine the Great, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of great characters in that, but yeah, I don't know if they all exactly, like you said, like graft specifically to certain things.
Yeah, and if you look at again, like what's going on with Jim Barry.
Yeah.
Likes those boys. But
I know.
But Peter Pan is just like tragic. It's just
it is.
It's really a story of like existential tragedy. Like one of the first lines, if not the first line, is like, all boys except for one grow up. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
So it's just about this character who, is a heroic, but is also arrested and refuses to grow up.
Right.
And depending on like what version of the story it is, like once he solves all the problems, and it's like, okay, well, you got to grow up now.
Right. And like dealing with the loss of innocence and that sort of thing.
And all the sort of chase, there's all these girls in it, but nothing really happens with them.
Right.
Isn't like it's a stage play, right? So like the actor that plays Wendy's father usually plays Hook as well.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
Which is not just, it's economical, but it's also maybe like a suggestion of kind of not Oedipal, but like a father figure type thing. The symbolism of.
Right. Like the father kind of disciplining.
It's all like
kids.
sex, but it's like really, really, really removed.
Yes.
It's sex, but it's not really sex.
Right. No, I mean, that makes sense to me too.
And then what's up, Disney, with the outdated cultural representations of the squaw and
yeah.
Label that Disney Plus. Come on. Anything else that we can think of?
I don't think so.
You were so hot to talk about Bridge to Terabithia.
Oh, well,
so
I mean, I just wanted to mention it as another example of, kind of like fantasy, that sort of thing.
Lewis Fangirl.
Yeah.
Again, apparently inspired by the death of her son's best friend who was hit by lightning.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I mean, that's sad and tragic. So
you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, just a similar thing. Did we even talk about The Dark is Rising at all? The Susan Cooper stuff?
I don't think so, no.
That's like a... See, you can never discount, like, the 70s in any of these.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them were just... I don't say drugs were involved, but there was definitely an era of, like, what if, like, Arthur, but, like, cool, dude?
Right, like psychedelic.
Yeah. What if Arthur just, like, put his stuff in a little bindle and just started walking the world, man? And, maybe hitting a dude if it came his way, but who knows?
Right.
Just like taking, like, these set mythologies and pantheons and just thinking about them in a different way.
Yeah. And I think...
Or trying to destroy religion as we know it from the bottom up. Philip Pullman style.
Right.
Gonna shoot the Pope.
Yes. And, I mean, I hope there's more of a lesson to be had in these books than just being anti-religious. I mean, I feel like there is, at least in the first one, but I guess I have to read the other books.
Being entertaining and hanging together is a great start. That's a great goal to have.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I don't think that HBO doesn't think that it's going to destroy organized religion as we know it. Right?
I certainly hope not.
It's just like, polar bears fighting. Cool.
Right.
Flying witches. All right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, let's get that in there.
Right. A cowboy in a hot air balloon.
Although part of it is, this is, they're doing it with the BBC, who, BBC also wants you to watch their stuff, but I feel like they are a little more, they're not going to make a show about, the start of the VHS porn industry.
No.
They're doing this for artistic sake. Mm-hmm. So I think this is a great combination. You've got the resources and outlet, like the distribution of HBO, and you've got the artistic sensibilities. Because let's face it, people love these books, but I don't think we've been talking about them recently, though. Like, probably why are they making this now? Simply because they can. Mm-hmm. They've got a great star in Daphne Keane.
Yes.
And they are Manuel Miranda, and they want to, make it happen. And I think that's really great.
I think so too. I wonder if it took them a while to get the rights after the film was kind of a flop. Like, I wonder.
Maybe they bought them.
Like a while ago.
When the New Line fire sale.
Uh-huh. Right. Maybe. I mean, I know HBO is looking for a replacement for Game of Thrones, and people are debating whether or not this is it or not.
This is not it. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah.
It won't be. It won't be that.
Okay.
But it will be good.
Yeah, I think it'll be good too. Do you think it's going to compete with even like Westworld type numbers, or do you think it's just going to be?
I think Westworld's competing with itself at this point.
Okay.
What is even Westworld now?
That is a fabulous question, and I think that will be continued into season 3.
We'll talk about that. Soon. Yeah.
But I'm excited to see where this show goes and to follow it.
Me too.
Yeah.
Watch your ass, Popey. So anyway, we'll definitely revisit this as we go forward, as more come out. Mm-hmm. And I hope that it continues to get renewed.
Yeah, me too. I hope we get to see the third book as the story unfolds. So
breath shall remain unheld. You
Yeah.
can always hold your breath for us to return, though, because we do every week. And until then, you can join us on social media at Facebook and Twitter. And, probably some other places, too. The Instagram. Mm-hmm. Mika's in charge of that. Go check out what she's got. She's got some great stuff cooking.
Do I?
Well, the pressure's on now, isn't it? Also, we're on Discord. You can join us by clicking on the link to our Discord server in the show notes. All are welcome. Come talk with us about his Dark Materials or Disney Plus shows or even Apple Plus C shows or whatever they are.
Right.
We'd love to hear what you think about them and what you think about our show. Follow us on those social media platforms. Also, subscribe to the show on your listening platform of choice. I'm checking on the Stitcher situation. I thought that we were on Stitcher. I'm pretty sure we are, but perhaps not every show in the Just Enough Trope constellation is on there. So I'm going to double check that. And I might put together a general feed so you can get sort of all the shows.
All right.
The JET feed, and then you can sort of pick and choose out of it what you want. So look for that. But otherwise, just check out Apple Podcasts and all the usual places. Subscribe to us so you can get the show as soon as it's done. Give us a review and give us a rating at the very least, because that's how those computers know that we're doing a good job. So I'd appreciate it if you give us 5 golden compasses.
There you go.
Which are not round devices for telling which way north is.
Right.
They are 2 stick devices that are used for
maps,
inscribing circles.
Yes.
Circle shapes.
Yes.
Generally on maps. But Americans are dumb and they don't get that. So it's a compass, everybody. Get your compasses out. So forget about that and give us 5 stars instead. We'll be back next week to talk about something else. And until then, we're signing off. I'm your host, Caliban.
I'm your co-host, Mikan Hana.
Keep the geek fires burning.